on Kiwi. Well, this week is Food Week all around New Zealand, and this year it's addressing the issues that many Kiwis have around putting meals on the table. To talk with me more about this is Sarah Hanrahan from the New Zealand Nutrition Foundation, all about Food Week this week. Good morning to you, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you very much. And something that you're addressing is how Kiwis can get more variety into their meals just using basics, because of course everyone's tightening their belts at the moment. There's not a lot of money splashing around for flash food.
No, and that's not what people eat day after day after day. What we're talking about is the family meal that people put out, between 6 and 7, night after night, that they're often just getting past it. They're tired, money's tight, what can you do when the cupboards are nearly bare?
Yeah.
So what we have is our Just Cook food list, which is a list of really basic foods, like, frozen chicken portions and bread and pasta and eggs and baked beans and mince. What can you do with these to make interesting, quick, tasty, affordable meals?
Well, because that's a good point. Because it's hard to be flashy regardless, because of the time constraints of the modern life, right?
Yeah.
It's also hard to be ethical and organic and all those kinds of things at the same time when time is short. Because you just mentioned frozen chicken portions.
Yeah.
Hard to find free-range frozen chicken portions, isn't it?
Hard to find free-range, and also for some people just not affordable.
Yeah.
So, we have to acknowledge that they're choices that people make, and that, sometimes people have to just spend their money in the wisest way they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, what we're really trying to say to people is just cook a meal for your family, and then if you do that, odds are you'll eat more vegetables. You will use less salt, probably less fat, but also there are lots of really good things that come from families just sitting down and eating together. And never mind the passing on of skills. No matter, we're talking about flashy or not, no matter how basic a meal is, if it's cooked at home, the kids will see how to, beat an egg or cut an onion, or, just those little skills that all add up to a really good life skill.
Are we getting better at all this stuff, or just the same or worse?
No, possibly we're getting worse, just
really?
Because of time pressure.
Wow, even with all these, these TV shows around cooking, you think one of the most popular shows on TV, there's MasterChef program, right?
But do you think that impacts on home cooking?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
It doesn't.
Because it's, great TV, and, we've had Nadia, who won last year, doing some demonstrations for us in Aotearoa and Mangere over the last couple of days. She's a great ambassador for good food. But the things that you see on MasterChef aren't necessarily the things you're going to do in your own kitchen at 6 o'clock.
Are you saying that this food revival, because there has been a food revival, which is kind of a strange thing because we all need to eat, but is not reaching all sections of society?
I think that's probably true.
Okay.
Farmers markets and the fabulous food stores we have are great, but they're not necessarily accessible to everyone.
Sure.
Most people, by far and away, are still getting the bulk of their food at the supermarket.
Well, talking about the supermarket, are they working with the seasons better than they used to?
Yeah, I think they are, but people also have to make a choice themselves. In winter, think coleslaw. What can you do with cabbage, not lettuce and tomatoes?
Yeah.
If a Swede's cheap, don't turn your nose up. Think, what could I do with that?
Yeah.
And that can be very difficult because, well, what can you do with a Swede?
You know what? In the past couple of years, I've fallen in love with the Brussels sprout.
It's quite a mind shift for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's so versatile.
So what do you do with it?
Well, you can chop it up and fry it with a little bit of butter and perhaps some bacon or some mushrooms in there.
Yeah,
lovely.
Yeah, a really tasty meal that at the moment would be really affordable. And the other thing is, take something like that and make that the main part of the meal rather than a side dish, and sort of start thinking of the more expensive things as maybe the side bit.
When you say the side bit, so sort of moving away from the meat and two veg.
Well, or think about how your plate looks with your meat and two veg.
Yeah.
That the meat should take up about a quarter of the plate, the bright, colourful vegetables half the plate, and the other quarter of the plate, what a lot of people call the starchy things, the potatoes, pasta, rice.
Yeah.
So, they're all good, and they all have their place, but just think about the proportions, but also think about the size of your plate.
Sure. You've put together something called the Just Cook food list. What's that?
Yeah, that's our list of all these foods that, if you keep on hand, you'll always be able to throw a meal together. If you've got a can of tuna and some pasta, with a few vegetables that you might have lying around, you can make that into a really nice dish.
Even a can of tomatoes?
Yeah, a can of tomatoes. It's those very basic things that everybody has anyway, but... if you've got some oats, add them to the mince. If you're making some meatballs to make it, or a meatloaf or something like that, to make it go further. Stretch things.
Yeah. Something in cans that I'm using a whole lot more these days. Cannellini beans.
Beans are fantastic.
So good, because there's so many different things. Salads, but also cooked. Very many ways of using them. Also chickpeas as well.
Yeah, and they are great. And the thing about that is they taste good. They make the more expensive meat go further if you're using them with meat.
Yep.
And, without thinking, you get a great health benefit.
So where can people find that list?
If you have a look at our website, justcook.co.nz, there's a page there called Downloads. You can look there and see it. If you go to that website, you'll also see our Create a Family Meal Kit challenge for kids.
What's that?
We think a big part of this is getting kids interested in helping with the home meal each night. So we've got a challenge for school-age children, and that's, primary, intermediate and secondary, to send us a recipe and a photo, and they go in for a chance to win 4 iPod Touches. And if they choose to put down their school details, then some very cool kitchen equipment for their school.
How are schools doing with teaching cooking? Because I remember when I was Form 1, Form 2, whatever the year that is now, year 1 and 2, I suppose, I don't know, whatever it is.
7 and 8, I think.
Yeah, is it? Okay, yeah. We went to cooking class, and, I think myself and all my peers, we really enjoyed that. They're still doing that around the country?
Well, there was a move away from cooking classes to food technology, which is not the same thing.
Is it? Well, okay.
Learning to cook is, a life skill. It's hands-on with food. How do you turn it into something edible? Yeah. Food technology covers a whole raft of things. It can be chemistry and all that sort of stuff as well, which is great, but it's not necessarily teaching cooking skills.
Doesn't sound very practical, does it?
But good. Food tech's fun, but it's not necessarily teaching those basic. The curriculum sort of moved a little away from those basic cooking skills.
Yeah.
So, but what you see now is that, say in Auckland, there are schools involved in the Garden to Table program, where they grow, if you go into a primary school now, they have fantastic vegetable gardens.
Yeah, well, I didn't have that. Yeah.
No. Yeah. So they're growing the food, and they prepare it and cook it and eat it together. And so there's quite a revival of that sort of thing going on.
All right. Well, so there's
all is not lost.
So, and are there any events on this week that people need to know about?
Well, we've just been out in Otara and Mangere for the past 2 days doing some things there. And there are smaller cooking classes and demonstrations going on around town through various health workers. But our main event was actually, it's been on the last 2 days.
Okay, brilliant.
But, have a look at our Facebook page, and our Interactive Kitchen is the other thing we've got, where you can click on ingredients from the food list, and it will give you recipes using those that are all quick, affordable, tasty recipes.
Great. Justcook.co.nz.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah Hanrahan from the New Zealand Nutrition Foundation and Food Week, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
It's coming up to 10 minutes away from 9 here on Kiwi. Coming up.